Hello everyone and welcome back to Independent Art Storytime. We're on part 2 of chapter 3 of The Box of Delights, and Kay has just heard Abner Brown's plans to try and scrobble the magic box, and he's heading back to Sea King's to meet up with the Joneses. Well, Kay thought, they always say that listeners hear no good of themselves, but I never thought that that old rat in the old days would want to saw my head off. And who is going to give me a dog? I'll find out more from Ellen. And what a world to come home to. Abner Brown and a gang all dressed up as clergymen, and after something that the Punch and Judy man has. I wonder what it can be. The Punch and Judy man is a wizard, if ever there was one, so it's probably some magic thing that he carries about with him. Why should Abner say that he's gone to Tatchester? I suppose he's heard that the bishop asked him to come to Tatchester. Those spies at the window might have heard that. He might have been one of those spies himself, for that matter. And then who are Cole Hawlings and the other two with the long way crosses on their fingers? Well, when Caroline Louisa comes back tomorrow, I'll tell her the whole story and ask her advice. Now, what can I get for Caroline Louisa's Christmas present? By this time, he'd reached Sea King's and shook the snow from him and went in. I say, Kay, wherever have you been? Peter said. We've been waiting simply ages for you, and you aren't dressed or anything. We were just going to play pirates, and there's been a clergyman sort of chap here asking for the Punch and Judy man. What did you tell him? Kay asked. Oh, Maria said, I told him that he'd gone to Tatchester with the choir. So that's how he thought it, Kay thought to himself. And what did he say? Kay asked. I rather thought he was going on to Tatchester after him, but I don't think for a moment that he was a clergyman. He was a burglar of the deepest dye. However, he didn't get much change out of us. And what did he want the Punch and Judy man for? Kay asked. Oh, he got some cock and bull story that he wanted some old versions of the Punch and Judy play. I'll bet that wasn't his real reason. I'll bet the Punch and Judy man is a member of a gang of burglars and this clergyman is a member of a rival gang. Oh, you've got gangs on the brain, Peter said. If I've got gangs on the brain, Maria said, whose brain is right as a general rule, may I ask? I've got a good deal more knowledge of life than you have, although you say you're so old and wise and go to a public school and have to say sir to the masters. I'd sir them if it was me. Well, Kay said, has he gone to Tatchester, as you say? Yes, Peter said. I told him that the bishop had engaged him to play tomorrow. Come on then, Kay said. Let's go and play pirates. I'll go and dress. Oh, no, you won't, Maria said. We're not going to wait any longer. We've been waiting simply hours as it is. You've had your chance of being a pirate and you haven't taken it. And now you'll be a merchantman and you'll be captured and tortured and then you'll have to walk the plank. And Peter and I are going to be the sharks that bite you. After they played pirates, they had supper. And after supper they sat around the fire and toasted chestnuts. Then they told a ghost story, each telling a little piece and passing it on to the next one. Then presently it was time for all the children to go up to bed. Kay and Peter were last to go up. They got into their beds and talked to each other across the room about what they would do in the holidays. It was very snug up in their room, for Ellen had built up the fire, and Peter had said that he thought he'd be getting off to sleep, when Kay was thoroughly startled by a whining cry of wind in the chimney. Often, on snowy nights, he'd heard that cry of the wind in the chimney, but tonight there was something in the shriek that was very awful. I say, Peter, he said, did you hear that? It was just like wolves howling. Wolves are extinct, Peter muttered, half asleep. Kay thought he would turn off to sleep, and was just on the brink of sleep when the wind howled again. It was wolves, Kay said. It was what the old man said. The wolves are running. Kay could not have long been asleep when he woke up feeling certain that there was something very important to be done at Arthur's camp. He rolled over thinking, well, it isn't likely that anything is to be done there at this time of night, and was very soon asleep again. However, his dreams turned to King Arthur's camp. He saw the place, he half woke and then slept and saw it again. And at this he woke up wide awake, convinced that he must go there at once. He sat up in bed, struck a light and lit a candle. Peter woke up very grumpily. "What on earth are you lighting a candle for?" he said. "I'm going out to King Arthur's camp," Kay said. "Will you come along?" "Arthur's camp?" Peter said. "It's miles away. Whatever are you going there for?" "I don't know," Kay said, "but I feel I'm wanted there." "Wanted?" Peter said. "You're talking in your sleep. What time is it?" "It's nearly midnight," Kay said. "Well, who on earth would want you there at midnight?" Peter growled. "Do be sensible, you'll catch your death of cold. It's probably pouring snow still." "It isn't," Kay said. "Look," as he pulled back the curtains from the window so that Peter could see the bright moon shining on a world of deep snow. "You see, it's stopped snowing and it's a lovely night now." "I know your lovely nights," Peter said, "freezing like billy-o. It's jolly fine being out in the snow at night," Kay said. "You see foxes and white owls and tawny owls." "I've never heard such rot," Peter said. "Do blow the light out and let a chap get to sleep." Kay said, "I'll go alone." He had wrapped himself in thick things and now he took the candle and slipped downstairs. It was certainly icy cold in the hall and some frosty snow had driven up underneath the doors and lay gleaming on the mats. He pulled back the bolts and took off the chain and opened. And as he pulled the door back he became aware of something scraping the snow upon the drive. Somehow he'd half expected it, and there it was, a shining white pony with a proud Arab head, scarlet harness and headstall. "Mount and ride, Kay," the little horse said, "for the wolves are running." Kay mounted at once, and the horse sped over the garden with him, making no noise at all, but flicking up snow behind him as he sped. Kay could not be sure that these flicks of snow did not change into little white hounds. All the town was fast asleep, and there was only light in one window. Soon the houses dropped behind, and there was the open country looking very wild and strange under the snow. "Of course it's wild and strange," he muttered. "All the buildings are away. The 2 farms and the mill, where have they gone? And those black pools, how did the water come there?" While he was wondering, the horse turned off the track to Arthur's camp, and at this moment Kay heard on the wind a note which he'd heard once before that night. It was faint and far away, but it was the cry of the wolves running. At the camp there was more strangeness. All the trees which had darkened the camp the day before were gone, and it was now a bare hill with a kind of glare coming from the top of it. By this glare Kay saw that the earthen wall of the camp was topped with a wooden stockade, which the horse leapt. Kay slipped off the horse and kept a tight hold of the reins whilst he looked about him. Within the stockade a big fire was burning, and it hissed and smoked as men put snowy branches onto it. And by the light of the fire Kay saw that the camp was busy, with many short, broad, squat, shag-haired men and women, among whom some wizened children were darting or cowered. Penned in one place were some half-starved cows, and in another place some long-legged sheep. A dog or two skulked and yapped. There were some huts, and some ricks, and great piles of wood for firing. Whoever these people were, they'd certainly been roused in the midnight by an attack of some sort. In a moment Kay understood what the attack was. Somewhere down on the hill slopes coming towards them, that faint cry which had so scared him now burst out with a frenzy and nearness which made his blood run cold. "The wolves are running," he muttered, "and now here they are." At this instant the little horse shied violently, plucked the reins from Kay and bolted. Kay saw that people running towards the stockade. The moon had come from behind the cloud and was shining brightly. "Of course," Kay said, "this is only a dream. I shall wake up presently." "But no," he added, "it isn't a dream. They are wolves, and they're here at the pale." Just 3 feet from him a big wolf leapt to the stockade and almost scrambled to the top. A man struck at it with a kind of spear and missed it, Kay thought, but the fierce head fell back, and as he fell back there was a worrying, yapping snarl as the rest of the pack came over the palisade in a body behind Kay. All rushed to meet them, flinging stones and lighted logs and shouting and striking, and Kay rushed with them. 3 wolves had got over, and at their appearance all the cattle and sheep were stampeding in their pens. There they were, 3 wolves, all hackled and bristled and snarling and slavering. Stones and burning embers fell about them and hit them, and they flinched and dripped and snarled, but did not give way. Some men ran up and struck them with spears. They gave way then, and leapt easily back over the paling to their fellows. In another instant the pack was over the stockade in the darkest of the camp. "They're over again!" Kay cried. It was plain that they were over, for the cattle and the sheep now cried out in terror, and again stampeded, this time in such force that they broke their pens and scattered. The men shouted and ran at the wolves. A woman thrust a great piece of gorse into the fire and lit it and ran with it blazing, and Kay seized another piece of gorse and did the same. A terrified little cow charging past upset him, and when he was again on his feet he saw that one of the sheep had been bitten, not too badly, and that the wolves were driven off. One wolf, in scrambling back, had had his backbone hacked through with an axe, and another was being finished with spears. 3 or 4 women had lighted gorse. For the moment the glare was too much for the wolves, and they drew away, but they had not yet given up their attack. Kay could see them not far away, sometimes as green eyes glaring, others as darknesses in the snow. They were waiting for the fires to die down, getting their breath, laying their plans, and licking their knocks and singes. Kay wondered how he was going to get home to Sea Kings with the wolves in the field. "They always say there aren't any wolves," he muttered, "but there could easily be wolves in places like Chester Hills, and now, in this wild winter, out they come." The men now drove the stock to a space all lit and cornered by fire. Great flakes of fire floated away into the wind, and the dead leaves took flame. Blots of snow fell hissing amongst the embers, and the cattle flinched at both. Kay had been reading a few days before that wolves are creatures of extraordinary cunning, and presently he noticed that all the pack had shifted away from the palisade. The cattle inside the enclosure became quieter. The men and women put out the flares which they were burning, and there was a general slackening of tension. Then suddenly, from the darkest point of the camp, there came a howl and the noise of rushing bodies. The pack was over the stockade and into the camp, and the cattle were stampeding, and the people shouting and lighting flares and flinging weapons and burning embers again. And Kay said to him, "This is the real attack." The others were just feints to find out how the land lay. 2 enormous wolves with red eyes and gleaming teeth rushed directly at himself. He felt himself plucked by the arm, and there was the little old Punch and Judy man, but no longer dressed like a Punch and Judy man. He was wearing a white stuff that shone. "You come here beside me, Master Kay," he said. "Don't you bother about those things. You only see them because I am here. But it's like the old times to me, Master Kay, to see this. I've had fine times in winter nights when the wolves were after the stock. Many times we'd stand to like this, almost till daylight, and then the thing to do is follow them, Master Kay, and never to let up until you've caught them, for the wolves lose heart, and they're not half of what you'd think they'd be when you see them like this. But I hoped you'd come, Master Kay, because other wolves are running. They're running after me, and they're running me very close. It's not me they want, it's my box of delights that you caught sight of in the inn. If I hand that to you, Master Kay, will you keep it safe for me so they don't get it?" "Of course," Kay said. "I'll keep anything for you that you want kept. But if you are in danger for anybody, go to the magistrates. They shall defend you." "Ah," he said, "the magistrates don't heed the kind of wolf that's after me. This, Master Kay, is a little box, and there are 3 things I must tell you about it. You open it like this. If you push this to the right, you can go small. If you push it to the left, you can go swift. I've not had this long, Master Kay. It's Master Arnold's, not mine. and though I've sought for him and called him, I have not found nor been heard. He's gone a long way back, Master Arnold has. If I had time, Master Kay, I might best the wolves, but they run me close with this new magic which I can't guard myself against. Going swift and going small will save you, you'll find. You're young, but they won't save me, Master Kay. Not any more, for I'm old now and I only know the old magic. Now will you keep this for me till I am able to claim it, if I am ever able, or until old Master Arnold can come back for it? I will indeed, Kay said. And if they put me to an end, Master Kay, as perhaps they will, then you are to keep it until old Master Arnold comes. But above all, keep it from coming to them. Will you do that? If I possibly can, I will, of course. But who is this Master Arnold, and how shall I know him? Kay said. You'll know him if he comes, the old man answered, for he'll come right out of the old time. Now one other thing. If you and your friend, Master Peter, would come out this way towards dawn, you may see what comes to me. And now, good fortune, Master Kay, and I hope that I'll come back for this box of delights before so very long and give it to Master Arnold in person. He handed Kay the little black shiny box. Kay had seen one or two of the old man in the village with tobacco boxes that looked like it. Put it in your inner pocket, the old man said. He was about to put it in his pocket when somebody thrust a big gorse bush into the fire. It flared up with a blaze and a crackle. Instantly the cattle and the tribesmen disappeared, and Kay seemed to be alone, in a glare of light, surrounded by a ring of wolves, all snarling at him and glaring with red eyes. Never heed them, the little old man's voice said from far away. Press it to the left, to go swift. He had the box in his breast pocket with his hand still upon it. He pressed the catch to the left, and in a flash he was plucked up into the air, away from the wolves and the hillside, and there he was, rather out of breath, in his bed at Sea King's, with Peter sitting up in the bed opposite. I say, Kay, what were you doing? Haven't you gone yet? What's the time? 1:15, Kay said. Ugh, said Peter with a growl, rolling over. And we'll be back with chapter 4 very soon.